Before I get started, there is a question on the debt, and I don't want to lose it. So I'm going to go ahead and answer it now. Deborah is asking, she says, I know what monk's cloth and rug warp look like. Okay. Anyone know how to tell good quality burlap from primitive linen? Is there a test of some sort? Burlap is burlap, and it has to do with the fiber. It's what it's made out of. So that would be like, which of the McDonald's hamburgers are nutritious? Okay? It just doesn't, it doesn't fit. I mean, it's one or the other. Burlap is going to rot incredibly quickly. In a heartbeat. I was hooking for 15 years, and a friend of mine who had been hooking for many years prior to that started repairing her rugs at 15 years. And they were breaking down and cracking as fast as she could repair them. I didn't want any part of that. There is no such thing as good quality burlap, in my opinion. There are so many other fibers out there that we have available to us. Why, oh, why would you use burlap? It's like, okay, I'm going to use sandstone for my foundation, even though granite or limestone or whatever, I fill in the name of a rock that's harder, is available for the foundation of my house. I'm going to use sandstone. I know it's going to wear away in 15 years, but that's okay. It's cheap. No, it's the foundation. That's why they call it foundation cloth. It's the backing. It's the most important part of your rug. Don't skimp on the backing. Okay, I'd rather you hook with non-wool than use a cheap backing. Okay, you'll thank me later because there's nothing that you, it's kind of like buying a house in the wrong location. There's nothing you can do to change the location. You can fix it up, you can spruce it up, you can make it as wonderful as you want. It's still on the corner of and it's not a good neighborhood, right? So use a good backing and get off to a really good start. And that would be the best bet for you. Let's see, is there anything else that I am missing? Deborah said, I wouldn't want to use burlap, was given some yardage from an estate, and I don't know what it made from, so I was trying to figure it out. Yeah, I wouldn't use it. What I'm finding in a lot of estate collections, whole collections from rug hookers that I've gone in and bought just everything. You end up with some really weird stuff. There's some backing there that's not really backing, but was bought with the intent of being used as a backing. So that could be what you were running into. I would use it in the garden for something. I would use it somewhere else. Just don't use it for your rugs or simply throw it away. That's what I would do with that. So today's lesson is the invisible finish. Okay, so the invisible finish is a finish that you can't see from the top of the rug. Okay, it's there. It's a finish, but it doesn't take up any space. Now, the reason I use this finish is for my stair risers. And I've got a couple of them sitting over here. Let me grab them. Okay. These are great projects because they're 6 inches by 30 inches. You can hook them up. Oh, let me get lined up with the camera. You can hook this up probably in about a week. I've gone at Sauter Village. I've taken a couple stair riser patterns in to hook. And one year I actually hooked 2 in 1 week. But that's 4 days of workshop hooking, which is you hook all day and then you hook half the night too. So, right, it's a lot of hooking. So, but you can easily get these done. They take about a half a yard for a background. So the supplies that you need are relatively modest and they fit on your stair risers. And I will talk about how to mount them on the stairs once I'm through with this. But let's talk about the finish for now, okay? So this is the finish on the back. And I've used rug tape, and I've had to use rug tape mainly because I've taken the backing and put it to the back. So it's a situation like this where I folded this to the back and now I've got to cover up this selvage, right? So it doesn't show on the back of the rug. So it looks nice and finished. That's the only time you need rug tape, is to cover up a raw edge. I've had some people do the fold forward finish, which is like this, and there's nothing on the back. But they still took a piece of rug tape and put it there because they thought it needed to be there. No, think about what you're doing. The only reason you put rug tape there is to hide a raw edge. There is no raw edge to hide, which is why I love my favorite finish, the fold forward finish. There is no raw edge to hide, so there's no need for rug tape. In fact, by putting rug tape there, you're trapping dirt. You are adding thickness to the outside edge of the rug. You're doing a whole bunch of negatives and no positives, okay? So let's get back to the stair riser. So here's what it looks like from the front. And as you can see, there's absolutely nothing showing. It ends right at the base of the loops. The reason I searched out this finish and figured it out was because, and that's black on black, so it's really hard to see. But what you see are the loops, and then you see a tiny little bit of a whipping. Let me show you on this piece, because here's my sample piece of it. So this is how big the whipping is. It is teeny, teeny, tiny. And the only reason for whipping that is because these stair risers were on a set of stairs that came down, and this edge of the stair was open to the rest of the living room, right? So the stairs came down from the side, right? So if I didn't do something there to finish that, you would see white backing, and that's not pretty, right? So I saw this finish first demonstrated by Barbara Carroll. So I've always called it the Barbara Carroll finish, but I'm nicknaming it the invisible finish, okay? Because that is truly what it becomes. Now let's break it down. What makes a finish good? Several videos ago, it might have only been a week ago, I did, it might have been a week ago Friday, I did a video about finishes and what makes, just sort of, here's a finish, this is what it looks like, not how to do it. And I talked about the knife fold edge, right? And the knife fold edge is where your backing is folded the first time. And unfortunately, this finish has a knife fold edge right at the base of the loops. Not good. Okay? Do I care? No. It's a stair riser. It took me a week. The pattern in the wool wasn't terribly expensive. It's not a huge investment like a giant area rug would be, right? I'm okay. Mainly because I want to have a nice looking finish, but I also want to show as much of the stair risers as I possibly can. Stair risers, these are 6 inches, which normally fits on a stair, unless yours are shorter than code. It'll fit on most of them. You just measure that little area that's under the lip of your stair, measure that and see if it's 6 inches. If it is, then the stair riser patterns will fit. But if you make it bigger, and if you make it bigger by just a little bit, it might not fit. And here's what I mean. I hooked this one and I absolutely love it. Great message, right? Simplify. But what do you see around the outside edge, right? There's a whipped edge. This is my fold forward finish, and it shows, okay? It shows, but it makes it very sharp, right? I mean, that's a good look, having that dark finish, which mimics the dark on the inside, all the way around the outside. I was really excited because I had this pattern with me at a workshop. I was hooking on it in the evening with the students, and I got it done. And I thought, perfect. I'll show you guys how to do a corner by finishing a corner on my stair riser. And I was so excited about doing that and being able to demo a corner live for them that I forgot that that's not the kind of finish that I do on stair risers. I got this all the way done. I got it home, and this would not fit in my stair. Okay. It fits in my new staircase, which is good. So these will be able to be hung up on my new staircase, but they did not fit on my old one. So it became a big issue, and it became, okay, now what do I do with it kind of a thing, right? But it all worked out, and it's going to fit perfectly in this one. These are older stairs. They're slightly different in height, not dramatically, but this particular stair riser, I will be able to find a step that this will fit on. So the way this works is you simply fold. Let me go to this other camera. I think that will be a little bit easier. Oops. Go to table. Here we go. So here we are with it. And here's the finish. I would remember to ignore the zigzagging that goes all the way around, because I don't do that anymore for any of my finishes. And I did it back in the day only because Rug Hooking Magazine said to do it. And since then, and I've done videos on why I don't do it anymore. So look for that. But this simply gets folded to the back. Now, what's important is that when you fold it to the back, that you don't fold it to the back so much that it causes that last row to sort of crack. So you want to keep it nice and flat. And what's going to happen then is it's going to leave a little bit of a whiteness right there. Then I take the rug tape and I line the rug tape up on the back, and then I simply whip. And I go through and I whip, 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 whip. When I'm done, job ain't done till it's over with. And you want to make sure that your rug tape, whatever size it is, because you can get this in different widths, you want to make sure that it's big enough to cover the raw edge of your backing. And if it doesn't, either get larger rug tape or cut this down a little bit smaller. Either way. But what you're going to do before the job is completely done is you need to sew down this backing that's in there just to prevent friction, to move, stop it from moving around. And in fact, what I usually do is I'll sew it down first. That way I don't have to mess with it. Then put the rug tape on, whip it, and then you have to sew the rug tape down to the rug. So there's a lot of steps. You're basically going around it once. Oops. There we go. You're basically going around it once to tack down the backing. You're adding the rug tape, and then you're whipping. Then when you're done with that, you've got to sew down the rug tape. So you're going around the rug 3 times. So to me, it takes a little bit longer to sew it down, but what I like about it is the fact that nothing shows, and it really does a good job of that. So what else can I tell you? Oh, how to hang it on the stairs. This is the method that I use to hang it on the stairs, and it's a system of sticky rug tape or sticky Velcro and sew on Velcro. And if you can't find a package of both, where they have both kinds in one package, then you just buy one package of sticky, one package of sew on, and you split them apart and put them back together, right? Okay, let's not make this hard. And then what I do is I sew on. If I have a choice, I like to put the soft one on the rug. Okay, only because is if I take it off the stairs and take this somewhere, this isn't catching on everything. So this is the loop side of the hook and loop. Then once I've got that done, then I'm going to cut pieces of the sticky stuff that's the same length, and I do it across the top and down both sides. You can do it across the bottom if you want, but I've never found a need for it. Okay, it's just wasting a lot of expensive Velcro, And quite frankly, sewing this stuff on ain't fun, right? Then once I'm ready to hang it on and stick it on the actual stairs, I keep this plastic protective stuff there, right? I fold it in half and I figure out that halfway mark. I mark the halfway mark in my stair and I hold it in such a, I'll take the protective tape off and I'll get that stuck. And then I'll just concentrate on this one side and get that in place. Sorry, it hit the keyboard. It flipped it around. And then I'll stick this other side up. Once I've got that, then I can flip this up and take off the protective stuff on the side pieces and then stick that down. Okay, that's going to be your easiest way to get it up there. And then once it's there, chances are you'll never have to move it again unless you want to take it down for some reason. For me, it's usually I want to take them with me to a rug show. Or I'm teaching a class and someone's hooking that pattern and I'm going to take it with me. But usually then they're fine and they stay there, and then they're a stair riser, remember. So that means they go on the part of the stair that goes up and down, right? Not the tread. It's not a tread. It's not where you put your feet. So they stay nice and clean. I have animals, so the bottoms will tend to get a little coating of animal hair, but just the extension on the vacuum will take that off and it works fine. I've never had to take them off in order to clean them. Okay, so that works really, really well. So let me see. I'm looking for question marks. Okay, so if you've got a question, put question marks in front of it and then ask your question. And if I've missed your question, then do it again, but put question marks in front of it. That's going to be the only way. Okay, so Linda is saying, what fiber is rug warp? Rug warp is cotton. So think of mummies and how long cotton lasts with mummies. It's going to last as long as linen does. A lot of people assume that because linen is more expensive, linen is a better backing. No, linen is a harder fiber to process, right? It just depends. Hook what works for you, but please, please, please don't hook on burlap. Yeah. Olivia says, I ordered monk's cloth from Joann's in the USA, but this was not true monk's cloth. Absolutely not. Was at exhibition here in Ireland, and a certified punch needle, Amy Oxford, had the real monk's cloth. Nothing like Joann's. Absolutely. Do not buy that from the fabric store. I've seen people trying to hook in it, and it doesn't make a good end product. It's not a good process to work with. Just avoid it. Avoid it. Avoid it. Now, monk's cloth, I avoid monk's cloth. Okay, for punching, monk's cloth is good. But for a rug, for a larger format, the problem with monk's cloth is it ends up very stretchy. And it also is very limp. There's not much body to it, okay? The way I equate it is, imagine t-shirt fabric or brand new denim. Which one do you want to be the basis of your rug? Well, I want brand new denim. I want nice, heavy denim. That's what rug warp is. Monk's cloth is more like t-shirt material. And when that rug is done and it's on the floor, you are probably going to have to bend over and straighten it because it's going to get little wrinkles in it. Rug warp doesn't do that. Rug warp will still scoot if it's on carpeting, but it doesn't wrinkle. And I've had linen and rug warp rugs hooked with the same wool in the same hallway being laid on by the same dog. And every time he was done, I would have to straighten out the linen rug, but the rug warp rug would still be nice and flat with no wrinkles in it. So you have to decide if you want to bend over and straighten your rugs. And part of it is it's going to depend on what that process of hooking is like, right? Because you're going to have to live with that rug for a certain amount of time. You've got to enjoy hooking on that backing too. Joan has said, instead of a tiny bit of whipping, could you do a row of reverse hooking? You could. You're still going to see some little white threads. Joan, you'd have to play with that and see if that would work. You're going to have the loops on the inside, and so you're going to have to deal with that and that causing extra bulk. So I would say try it. See, work up a sample. I always recommend when you're trying a new sample, work up a little test like this, okay? If nothing else, when you're helping your friends, you can explain to them what the steps are to do it. Do you need to make them this long? Probably not, but for some reason I was making them that long. And then you would always be able to reconstruct and refigure out how it's going to work. Plus, if you got an idea to try something new, try it on something like this rather than trying it on your rug. Don't do a finish for the first time on a rug that you just finished. That's a recipe for disaster. Is this what you would use on chair pads? Probably not. Well, I don't know. Okay. The problem with this, not this finish, but this finish, is that it does cause a little bit of thickness on that edge. Okay. It's got this tight little thing that's thick. And then there's a layer of the backing, right? And then the rug tape. So it's going to cause a little bit of extra thickness at that very end. The fold forward is what I would use because that's what I use for everything unless there's a darn good reason not to. This feels, it's not as, how can I say? This is as thick as this. So it's the same thickness. Okay, so you're going to have that going on. You're just going to have to experiment and figure out which one works for chair pads. Is what look do you want? Okay, how does it feel when you sit on it? Okay, that would be, something to consider. And then third, are you willing to do that finish? Because the best finish is the finish you're willing to do. So if you're going to hook them and then never finish them, then it doesn't really matter, right? So let's get those things finished. Olivia is saying, is rug tape the same as bias binding? I'm not a seamstress, so I don't know, but I don't think so. Bias binding is the stuff you buy in the little packets, right? And it's wrapped around a card. No, that's not the same. Sheila is saying, are you using carpet thread, all-purpose thread? Use whatever you've got handy. Now, part of it is how important is it that that thread is sturdy? For this particular one, right? Regular thread would work because you're just stitching that down. There's no strain on it. You can use buttonhole thread. You can use hand quilting thread. You can use, what are some of the others that some of the people use? But I wouldn't use a thread that's so thick that it makes it hard to sew with, okay? Because again, you're defeating the purpose. You're making it harder than it needs to be. I tend to buy, if I'm buying something special, I'll buy buttonhole thread. And I repaired an antique rug and I bought hand quilting thread in the same color as the linen backing. And that's what I used when I did it. But that was a precious heirloom. So I wanted it to do right. I was going to have to buy thread anyways because I didn't have the right color. But just sew it down. It's not that big of a deal. Deborah is asking, and Deborah put question marks in front of your question. Luckily I saw this one. She says, what is the main difference in monk's cloth? Weight, holes, weave, tightness. In the difference between the two monk's cloths, the one that's not from rug cooking and the one that is, I think moot point, because don't use monk's cloth because it stretches. But you will notice monk's cloth because it has a 2x2 weave, and that's where the problem comes in. Beginning rug hookers will get their hook in between those two, and then they can't get the loop. They can't get the loop up. So that becomes an issue where you don't have those problems with burlap, monk's or burlap, rug warp, or linen. Janet is saying, are you whipping through the tape at the same time? Yes. You could sew it on after the fact. The problem is you're going to have to go around it again. And how do you get it close enough? You know, where this gives you a really nice, even finish. So, and it's simple enough to do. The biggest problem is that's your knife fold edge. It is going to rot right there, which is right at the base of the loops. Where with my favorite finish, the fold forward, it's going to rot here because that's where it's folded first. When it's folded the second time, it's supported by the two layers inside. So here's where it's going to rot. And I'm comfortable with that. That's 3/4 of an inch away. Is this the best finish? Probably not. But this is the one I'm willing to do. Okay, so that's where it becomes important. Olivia said, Joanne's was a much bigger weave, had no guidelines like Good Monk's Cloth. Sorry, didn't know the weave warp numbers. It's sloppy. It's intended for embroidery. And I'm not even sure it would be great for that, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what they sell it for anymore. What do you suggest instead of burlap? There is a video on YouTube, and I would recommend you look for it. Just do backing Cindy Gay. It's my most popular video on my YouTube channel, and it's the difference of the different backings. The backing that I recommend personally is rug warp. Right now I have it in stock 75 inches and 58 inches. And I've heard people say, oh, I only make small rugs, so I need the 58. No, you're the ones who need the 75. The small rug people need the 75 inches because you can cut 75 in half and get 2 small rugs. You can really only get 1 small rug out of 58 and you've wasted the rest of it. So that's the way that works. So change your thinking on that a little bit. Can you substitute a wide strip of wool instead of rug tape? You absolutely can. The problem is wool is even thicker than the rug tape, so it's going to create an even bigger thickness. Norma says, this isn't the edge you used on the Pemberville rug. No, I did not. Why didn't you use this one on that rug? I didn't, mainly because of time constraints, and it was a little bit of a, I'm not going to solder without a rug. I had designed the rug the year before in a class with Chris Butler, hooked it, and didn't finish it until the night before I left for solder. So I didn't have time to do any kind of a fancy finish. And the finish that I used was quick, it was fast, it was easy. Is it the best? Absolutely not. Does it look, it looks perfect. I mean, it's absolutely fine from that point of view. How long it's going to wear might not be the best. That's going to be the biggest issue. Dara is saying, why is bleached and unbleached linen offered? mainly because pattern makers like to draw their pattern on bleached linen, which is more white, than unbleached. Does the bleaching stress the fibers out? I don't know. I mean, that's something you'll have to answer for yourself. I've never seen any articles or anything about that. But it's usually just to make it easier for the tracing and it just makes a nicer, cleaner presentation. That's the only reason for it. April says, looking on Amazon for mat pins, I'm finding that there are many different head sizes. Do you have a link for the ones you purchased? I do. I don't have it handy right now in front of me. April, what I can do is I will put that into the show notes on this YouTube video right below. And that will be there. Give me like an hour after I end this. Gives YouTube time to process it and load it into my channel. I'll go in to the text section and pop that link in. So look for it there. It'll be right below this video. Sonia said, I thought with reverse hooking is ripping out. Yeah, it's just this words that we throw around. Sometimes reverse hooking means you're hooking it upside down, so the loops are on the bottom, and what's on the top is that flat part. So it just kind of depends on what you're using it for. Does rug warp and linen hook the same range of wool strip width? Yes and no. Okay. When I started using rug warp, I heard people say you can only hook up to a number 6. And I was introduced to rug warp by Jewel Marie Smith, a wide cut teacher, and we were hooking 8s, and I hooked 8s in it, and I was perfectly fine. I now hook 8.5s, and sometimes I'll even pull a 9. That's about as big as I go. Linen, on the other hand, you cannot take and use primitive linen and hook a number 3 cut because your loops won't hold in. They'll fall out. Okay. So you really, in my opinion, you can hook a wider range in rug warp than you can in linen, which might be the total opposite of what you might have heard. You might have heard you can only hook certain cut sizes in rug warp. And all I do is challenge you to please, please, please try it yourself. If you're buying something from me, one of my books or the strip sorters or whatever, and you want to try a piece of rug warp, just there, when you go into the product where you buy rug warp, there's a drop down where you can do 58-inch or 75-inch or a sample. Samples are free, small. It's going to be just a little itty bitty one. And I will mail it out to you. You can sew some fabric around it so it'll fit on your frame, and try hooking in it. Try it for yourself. Does it work with your setup? I can't hook in linen anymore. I've hooked in rug warp for so long that I've tried hooking in linen and it's loosey-goose. It doesn't hold the loops tight. I definitely don't like the final product, but I don't like the process of hooking in it. I mean, to the point where I was planning on hooking 8.5s and 9s in a primitive class. And I took the pattern, I designed a new pattern, I put it on linen. I took that with me to solder. That night, we're kind of like getting things set up and ready. And I start pulling a few loops. And I just turned to my roommate and I says, I'm setting the alarm for super early in the morning. I'm going to drive all the way home, get some rug warp, and drive all the way back, which is exactly what I did. And I did that instead of hooking it into linen because once I pulled it, it didn't feel right. And the vendors weren't open yet. The vendors weren't going to be open for a whole day. And I wasn't willing to waste a whole day. So I drove all the way home, got my rug warp, drove all the way back. So that's how much I prefer rug warp. Uh, Great. Joan says, thank you. I will make up some samples. Yay. Betty Jean says, I'm not sure if I heard you correctly at another session, but did you say that you shouldn't use the roll forward on linen? No, I didn't say that. I said that when you use it on linen, you need to slide in a piece of cording because linen doesn't have enough body. So you're basically, you can do it, but when you whip it, it squishes down flat. It doesn't turn into a nice round roll like rugwarp does. So you got to add that little bit of cording to be able to do that. Mary Hetrick, thank you for the assist. She says rug tape and bias binding are not the same. There's a word I was looking for. Deborah says twill tape is what you're looking for. What are you whipping with on the risers? Whipping with yarn, 100% wool yarn. So that's yarn. And I use a thinner yarn. For those of you who are knitters, I use a worsted weight yarn. Mainly because, I might have to go into some of the holes twice. But my corners are pretty. And they're real easy to do. And I'm not struggling to pull it through. So test it. Figure out what yarn you like. What weight you like. And then stick with it. What thread is used for whipping the invisible finish? The same yarn that I just mentioned. My favorite brand of wool yarn is Cascade 220. It's an inexpensive 100% wool yarn, very reliable. It's always the same quality. They don't always have the same colors because my favorite color in the whole world, number 9458, was discontinued many years ago. So I still have enough for that to whip my room size rug. But yeah, then after that, and what I've been doing is buying Cascade yarn and then over dyeing it to get the colors that I want. So go to a good quilt or knitting store, ask them for Cascade, ask to see the color chart. If they don't carry all of them, they might let you special order and do that, or at least you'll know what it looks like, then go order it online, whatever it takes. So are you saying the rug tape is attached via the whipping on one side? Yes. I mean, if you want to, you could baste it down, but I usually just whip it and it works just fine for that. Lily is saying, how do you find the show notes? Okay, so you're looking at YouTube right now, right? Look down below it. Right now, there's maybe a sentence there. That's it. I will have the link there. That's where the show notes are. Sonia says, I love rugwarp. Yes, we do. Norma is saying, do you find that the sticky part of the Velcro eventually loses its stickiness? Not if you're sticking it to the right thing. And I'll cover that in a minute. I bought some for a project, didn't get to it. Imagine that. And it was no longer sticky when I got it. Oh, okay. That's a different question than what I thought it was going to be. No, I haven't had that problem. And I've got some that have to be 15 years old easily. But I'm sticking it to, like sealed wood, the wood stairs. Now, if you're putting a stair riser on a staircase that has carpeted stairs, okay, I would just get those old grandma twisty pins, the ones that you used to put the chair covers on and the little head covers, and you used to just screw them into the sofa type thing. And I would just screw that into the carpeting and it won't even touch your wood. And that would hold them perfectly fine for something like that. And Olivia says, I hook with worsted knitting wool and chunky. Yep. You can use it to hook, if you find a particular brown like this that you really like, that makes a great detail line, particularly in a landscape. Okay, well, I've hit the bottom of the comments. Thank you all for being here. Tomorrow's or Friday's lesson, right? Today's Wednesday. Yes. Thank you, Mac, for showing me what day it is. Friday's lesson is going to be about how to hook skies. In particular, how to take your pattern and divide it into the 4 zones that you need to hook a realistic sky. Okay, that is a lesson that's going to eventually end up in the rug hooking journey, so it'll be available to everyone when it's live, but that one will not be recorded and stay on YouTube. So make sure you get here Friday at 4 o'clock for that most important lesson. And I think that's it for now. Tomorrow's the hook in. Okay, everybody, see you then. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go to my homepage, cindygayrughooking.com, and click on how to join the live events. Bye, everybody. See you next time.